In your documentary film, you talk about a CIA program called Operation Mockingbird or Project Mockingbird. When did this operation start, and what was its goal?
It began shortly after the inception of the Central Intelligence Agency. And to tell you how smart Jim Garrison was, in 1967, when he arrested Clay Shaw, he announced that he had solved the crime. And indeed, he had solved the crime. Not only did he investigate the crime, he investigated the origins of the CIA. And he says on camera, in the 10 years that he, following the Clay Shaw trial, which he lost, he only lost part of it. He won part of it, which the media will never tell you about, and we'll get to that. But what happened is he investigated the CIA and the reasons for its development. He said Russia was never a threat to America because it lost 25 million people. And what was a threat was peace. The peace that was it was disrupting the military-industrial complex's profits. So they created the CIA, Garrison says, to create a new foreign policy which would put us into a state of perpetual war, where we are now. Gore Vidal predicted it, and so did George Orwell predict it. Project Mockingbird was begun in the middle 50s and overseen by Allen Dulles, who was head of the CIA. And their purpose, announced purpose, was to infiltrate all of American media for the purpose of creating and changing our minds about peace and developing a permanent war policy. The first fake war was a Cold War with the Soviet Union, according to Garrison. The second fake war that you're well aware of course, was the fake Gulf of Tonkin resolution that got us into Vietnam, and then later the fake weapons of mass destruction, which got us into Iraq. Jim Garrison solved the case. You know, in 1968, Governor, I was under contract to Westinghouse to be Merv Griffin's replacement when he went to CBS. My producer was going to be Roger Ailes. Roger and I used to have extensive conversations about the news. He was Nixon's media advisor at the time, and he said to me, John, it's not what you put on the news that changes the world. It's what you don't put on the news that changes the world. And the world was changed by the fact that nothing about what Jim Garrison discovered was true about elements of the Central Intelligence Agency murdered our president. He says it on live television, and it was so powerful. You might remember, you know, I was now, the first critic in America.
Let me interrupt a second. We got to move forward here quick, and we don't have a lot of time. Do you think that Project Mockingbird continues today, or has it been discontinued? Where is it at now?
No, as a matter of fact, it's worse today, and it's stronger today. I mean, let me tell you how simple it is to solve this problem. You might remember when AT&T was ordered by the Justice Department to break apart because it was a monopoly, and they did. We now have a dozen successful phone companies. You might remember when the major studios owned theaters, and they were told they were a monopoly, get rid of them. The worst president of the United States was Bill Clinton. He signed NAFTA, which sent our jobs overseas. He repealed Glass-Steagall, which caused the economic collapse in 2008. And worse, he destroyed democracy by signing the Communications Act. When John Kennedy was killed, Governor, a company could only own 5 stations in America. There were 1,500 different owners of television and radio stations. With the Communications Act that Clinton signed, yes.
John, do you think over the last 55 years, what has come forward? Why does the media continue to push the Oswald killed Kennedy scenario when so much evidence has come out now that takes it far beyond Lee Harvey Oswald?
Well, because that's how they profit. You know, there's an opening sequence in the film, Governor, that's just astounding. It shows you how $18 billion was spent by the media to cover the O.J. Simpson trial. $2 billion was spent on the John Benet Ramsey trial, still an open case, the most investigated unsolved murder in America. And then another $8 billion was spent on the Bill Clinton trial about all his peccadillos with Monica Lewinsky. In the O.J. trial, 12 people were made stars investigating that crime. Nancy Grace, Greta Van Susteren, and many others. However, when John Kennedy was killed in broad daylight, high noon in Dallas, Texas, the Zapruder film shows that the shot came from the front, and Jim Garrison says on camera, John, there were those in the media who assisted the government when this happened, and it began with Dan Rather, who lied about the direction of the head on the third and fatal shot. The amount of money spent by the American media to cover that crime, zero. Only $8,000 was spent, and that was Ramparts magazine, Playboy magazine, and the Los Angeles Free Press. And Larry Flint bought the Los Angeles Free Press, offered $1 million reward to anyone who would help solve the murder of John Kennedy. Months later, he was shot in the back and crippled. Walter Cronkite and Lyndon Johnson offered no such reward. And the media today are propagandists. Clinton has put 95%. Yes.
John, now let's move to right now today. Is there evidence suggesting that the U.S. intelligence are still infiltrating the media, or do they totally control it today?
They absolutely and totally control it. And these documents supposedly to be released by Trump are absolutely, totally meaningless. Because, Governor, you know as somebody who was in the military, the intelligence agencies don't keep diaries that say we did it. The two most important documents are already in the film. When Garrison arrested Clay Shaw, 1967, we have the document from the CIA that orders them to come to Clay Shaw's aid. Otherwise, Jim Garrison will get a conviction. The second most important document, because the Warren Commission report was dismantled by Mark Lane in his rusted judgment. And by the way, it wasn't printed in this country. He had to flee to England to get it published, and he only got $1,500. Then a lot of people came out of the woodwork at their own expense. Sylvia Marr, many of them did wonderful work disproving the Warren report. Well, that is all over with now. You look now, you can't go to a hockey game, a baseball game, any game, a basketball game, without seeing military all over the place. And Jim Garrison said it. John, he said this in 1980. I got the only interview with Mr. Garrison. He said, John, it's like Germany in the 1930s. Well, it's worse today because the Pentagon pays these National Hockey League and yes.
How do we wake the people up? How do we wake them up? Because it seems nobody cares whether, first of all, they broke the law. All these documents were supposed to be released. It shows me clearly the alphabet agencies run the government when the president won't even abide by the law. Unfortunately, John, we're out of time. I would love to spend more time with you. Will you come back again when and if they release the rest of the documents?
I will be so glad to come back here and talk to you anytime, Governor. Listen, good things only happen in the world from the beginning of time and civilization. It's the black sheep who do it. Galileo, Copernicus, all of these troublemakers. Jesus only had 12 followers. Only 3% of Americans fought the revolution. Castro only had 10 people in a rowboat. You are one of these wonderful black sheep who is helping inform the world. And as an atheist, I thought I would never say this to anybody, but Governor, God bless you.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. John Barbour, a great director and a man out there who's living the cause, living the life, and seeking the truth. Thank you.